So just sitting how you are comfortable. So with the legs, it depends on a lot of different factors. So if you're more than 34 weeks, we don't recommend sitting cross-legged because it's not great for optimum fetal positioning. So you might want to sit with the legs either stretched out or maybe with the soles of the feet together. Or kneeling is a really good position towards the end of your pregnancy because it really holds you much further up. I used to have loads of these blocks that you can see that are underneath the camera. I had a bag of them, and Claire might remember these, and I used to stack people after 34 weeks.
There's loads of different shapes as well. There was wedges. Oh, it's great.
Yeah, had to get rid of them all thanks to COVID. But I used to make a tower of 3 blocks, and then I'd get mums to sit like this. So the legs weren't compressed, the pelvis was nice and upright, and it felt so nice for ladies in the real kind of last month of pregnancy because it just gave some space for them and the baby.
That's another position I can't do because I get cramp in the bottom of my foot.
Right.
Not in the calf, it's actually right.
Instep
in
cramp.
the instep.
Instep
and
cramp.
It lasted 15 minutes the other day and I was just hopping around there, it was horrible.
Yeah.
So that's one more I can't do.
This baby better be the best baby ever.
Really?
Yeah, instep cramps are nasty because you can't stretch it out.
You just see it and then nothing. I
Yeah.
have to go put it in the bath. Put it in the bath. Yeah. I found it's kneeling that's doing it. So,
Yeah, I get it occasionally, so I know what it feels like. But like I say, most cramps you can kind of counteract it by stretching, but with your instep, there's just
trying to, but it doesn't.
nothing.
Yeah, so
yeah, nasty. Okay, so finding whichever position you're comfortable with. And then we're going to start with our heart-womb connection, which is just placing one hand over your baby or your babies, and then the other hand you're going to place in the middle of your chest. So in kind of yogic and energetic traditions, this area is the heart space. So this is sort of the emotional center of our being. And then our other hand is resting over our belly, wherever we feel the presence of our babies to be. So you might have a really good idea of where your baby is at the moment. Or if you're very early days, you might just kind of have a vague idea that they're somewhere in your pelvis. So just place your hands wherever you energetically and emotionally connect with your baby. And then obviously as you get later on into your pregnancy, you'll have a very good idea where they are because you can probably feel bits of them, like a bum or a head or a shoulder. And then from there, once you've got your hands into the position that you're comfortable with, just close your eyes. And then we'll just take some time out here now, just coming into stillness. So this is a moment for yourself to just let go of the day that you've had. So allowing everything that happened in your day to just melt away. Feel it dropping off energetically, mentally, off your body, out of your mind, like the autumn leaves falling off the trees at the moment. So just feel that there's a moment of shedding all of the stresses of your day. So you're not left with anything other than just being aware of the present moment. And then become aware of your hand that is currently over your abdomen. And just feel a connection to your baby. You might notice a slight swelling and then retracting of your hand as you breathe in and as you breathe out, and as the belly changes shape slightly as a reaction to your in-breath and your out-breath. So just notice those very subtle movements in the abdomen. And then become aware of the sensation of the hand that's over the centre of your chest. So the emotional centre, the heart space. And just notice how you feel today emotionally. And again, if there's anything there that needs to be shed, just let it go, like the leaves dropping off the trees. So you're not holding anything emotionally into your heart space that doesn't need to be held on to. And then also feeling the connection now between these two hands, so the energetic, heart-based feeling of unconditional love, connecting down into the space where your baby's born. Now turn your attention to your breath. Be aware of the sensation of breathing in. Be aware of the sensation of breathing out. And the next time you breathe in, see if you can consciously lengthen the inhalation in a nice gentle way without causing too much strain or stress. Just naturally bringing the breath into a more controlled space, so the inhale becomes a little bit longer, the exhale becomes a little bit longer. And then you can keep the hands there if you want, otherwise if the hands and wrists are getting a bit uncomfortable, you can bring the hands down and let them rest. You can also change the position in your legs if your legs are feeling a little uncomfortable. If you are sitting cross-legged, I would recommend swapping the cross over the other way. So this is a really important thing to bear in mind during pregnancy. When we sit cross-legged, we've got a slight twist in the pelvis because it's an asymmetrical position. And at the moment, our pelvis is becoming really soft, so everything holding the pelvis together is starting to loosen and soften. So if we constantly change the cross on the legs, we are preventing the pelvis from getting too twisted with all the softening that's happening. So we're going to work with our Ujjayi breath again today. So if you're new today, this is one of the birthing breaths that we use. It's a very traditional breath in yoga as well. We sometimes call it ocean breath. So we're going to create a little bit of constriction around the throat. This is very similar to the sensation you make in your throat if if you wear glasses and you have to clean your glasses, or a mirror. It's a similar thing, but we do it with the mouth closed. So it's a nasal breath, but we've got this kind of slight contraction around the throat. So you sound a little bit like Marge Simpson when you first do it, but we want to make it nice and soft. So we begin with it on the exhalation, and then if you can, just loop it around to the inhalation as well. So you end up with this slight soft sound that goes with your breath. But you'll also find your breath is really stretched and elongated. It's incredibly calming. And it also brings more oxygen into your body, which is really good when there's two of you fighting, or three of you fighting for oxygen in your body. So just see if you can take a few breaths with this ocean breath or Ujjayi breath. So just lightly contracting the muscles around your throat as if you're sighing. Notice how much longer the breath is. Notice how much control you've got over the breath. And if you're struggling a little bit with it, if it's not quite sitting with you, one of the things you can do is do it with the open mouth to begin with. And then close the mouth halfway through. So that's one way of accessing it. It's quite a tricky one to learn, this one. So do let me know if you haven't quite got it. But I find that's a really good way of working with it. So that kind of open mouth variation, and then you close your mouth halfway through the exhalation, and then you'll hear that sound, provided you don't let go of the throat contraction when you close your mouth. So just take a couple more. Now the next time you breathe in, with that Ujjayi breath, just float the hands up. Let the ribs lift away from your baby, and at the top of the in-breath, just have a little stretch. And then on the out-breath, I want you to gently float the hands down, as if you were lightly pushing something down towards the ground. Okay? So just carry on as you breathe in. Let the arms rise up, let the ribs rise up, and if there's any space left at the end of your in-breath, you can have a little stretch. And then on the out-breath, just gently let the hands drop down, as if you were lightly pushing something towards the earth. And just do a few more of these. So it's very subtle work. There's not much happening in the way of a stretch, but what I want you to do is to really feel the downward force of the exhalation. So energetically, the out-breath has a downward force. Energetically, our inhalation has an upward force. Everything feels like it rises up when we breathe in. But when we breathe out, there's a downward force. And why is this important? Because in stage 2 of labour, when you are pushing your baby out, you utilise the out-breath. So naturally, you would probably feel that when you are pushing, in the pushing stage of labour, you get a lot more purchase by doing it when you breathe out. And part of that is because the out-breath has this energetic downward force. So just do that one more time and see if you can tap into that downward moving force that comes with the exhale. And then you can just relax everything at the end. You can relax the breath, relax the movement, and just notice how that feels. And this is one of the reasons why we work such a lot with the breath in pregnancy yoga classes, but particularly working with breathing techniques that lengthen the exhale. Because you want the best you can possibly get out of that exhalation, because that's the part where you're going to be pushing. So the longer you can make your exhalation, the more purchase you're going to have in pushing your baby out during stage 2. Okay, fabulous. Right, if you want to stretch your legs out now, in front of you, just give them a little bit of a shake. I know we've been sitting there for quite some time, so give them a little bit of a shake, whatever they need. So we're going to do a little bit of hip opening. So you're going to bring the sole of your right foot in and let the knee drop out to the side. Is that comfortable for everybody? We're all okay so far. So the left leg is going to stay straight. We're going to bring the hands onto the knees to start with, and then we might do some more work in the upper body. We're going to use the Ha breath. So the Ha breath is another birthing breath, and it's easier than the Ujjayi breath. It just vocalizes what we've just done. But we're also going to do some pelvic floor on the inhale. So we did a lot of this last week. We did a lot of pelvic floor work last week. We'll do it again. Again, very important. especially with twins. You're going to have to really work on that pelvic floor, belly. So as we breathe in, two things are going to happen. We're going to breathe in, we're going to let the right knee lift up, and at the same time we're going to pull and squeeze and lift up through the pelvic floor muscles. And then on the out breath, we're going to relax the pelvic floor muscles. We're going to let that knee drop down, and we're going to, like a roaring, a silent, whispered lion roar. Okay? So when you're ready, you're going to inhale, squeeze and lift the pelvic floor, let the right knee lift up. Just do one more. And as you do this final one, see if you can really tell the difference between the clenching and tightening of the pelvic floor and then the relaxing and the letting go of the pelvic floor, because we need to be able to do both. Okay, and then you can bring that leg up, and then we're going to have a little bit of a twist. So we're going to have an open twist. So in pregnancy yoga classes, we always twist away from the bent knee. So those of you that have done yoga before will probably know that in twist, we bring the leg in and then we turn towards the knee so that we can massage the abdomen. That's not going to work for you. So we're going to twist away. So you're going to place your right foot outside the left foot. If it doesn't quite reach the floor, it may be because your bump is in the way, maybe because you've got a short shin bone. You might find placing a block or a cushion or something underneath your foot might help you, because we're actually going to use the foot to push into the ground. So if you can get the foot onto the floor, that would be really, really useful. Okay, so we're going to twist away from the bump. So you're going to bring your left hand onto the ground behind you, wrap your right arm around your right leg, and then push into the left hand so that your spine lengthens. And then we're just going to gently relax the back muscles around towards the left as you breathe out. So try and keep the spine as upright as you can so that you're moving away from your thigh. And then do the same thing again. So you're going to breathe in and lengthen the spine. And as you breathe out, just gently relaxing the body around towards the left. Okay, Emily, can you drop your right buttock? Relax the right, that's it. And then upright the spine a bit more. So lean the right shoulder back a bit. And now you're going to do this. So you're going to turn your sternum around. Yeah. So can you feel that twist in your back now?
Yeah.
The body's an interesting thing. It will try its best to move away from any pose if it means it's going to stretch. Okay, so we're going to do that 2 more times. So you're going to breathe and lengthen the spine. And as you breathe out, just relax the rib cage and the sternum around towards the left. And last time. So a little bit of a twist for the spine. And then ease back to the center. And then we're going to do a little bit of pelvic floor. So you can still turn slightly away. So actually it will feel more comfortable if you're kind of off on an angle, just because you're not going to be able to come all the way. Well, unless you're 14 weeks. Camilla might manage it.
I'm 15 now.
15, oh, 15, that's true, another week. Yeah. But for most of you, you're probably going to have to sort of come slightly out of your own way. And then you're going to push down through the right foot. So this is some of the pelvic floor exercise. So you're going to breathe out, push that foot down into the ground, and then inhale, relax. Okay, same thing again. Push the foot down into the floor as you breathe out. Inhale, relax. Do that again. And you should be able to feel your right glutes. Yeah. And also a little bit of pelvic floor as well. So all this muscular strengthening is really important around the pelvis, because it needs to support an ever softening structure and an ever growing weight inside of it. Okay, and then you can let that leg go. Ooh, that's woken my right glutes up. Have a little bit of a jiggle, and then the left leg is going to come up, and you're going to bring the sole of the left foot into the thigh. Let the knee drop out, and then we're going to do the same thing again. So we're going to use the ha breath on the exhale. So breathing in, let the knee lift up, and then we're also going to engage our pelvic floor muscles. So breathing in, squeezing and lifting the pelvic floor. And then on the out breath, really relaxing the pelvic floor as we use that ha breath. Just keep going. So where the ocean breath, the Ujjayi breath, is very relaxing, it's very calming. When we do it through the open mouth, the ha breath, it does have this sort of lion quality to it, in the sense that I think it feels very powerful. And this is why I teach a variety of different breaths in pregnancy classes, because actually when it comes to labour, sometimes you're going to need a nice, quietening, relaxing breath. Sometimes you're going to need a lion's breath to give you that sense of power, that goddess energy. And I think this is very much that, that kind of breath. It's got a lot of warrior energy to it. Okay, last one. So zipping up, pelvic floor on the in-breath, and then feeling that warrior S, the warrior goddess energy on the exhale. I think that's a lovely way to think about giving birth, isn't it? The warrior god. I mean, there's nothing more warrior goddess, is there, than giving birth. Yes. Okay, so that left leg is going to come up. It's going to cross over, but you're going to turn away from it. So turn towards the right now. Let the right hand come onto the floor, and then you're going to breathe in and lengthen the spine. And as you breathe out, just gently softening the upper back around towards the right side. Just do that a few more times. So the left buttock stays anchored to the floor. So I think the same thing's happening again. So you want to get the left buttock on the floor, and then you need to bring your left shoulder back. Left shoulder. Yeah. So that you're upright. Yeah, that's it. And then rotate. Yeah.
I can feel it now.
Yeah, it's quite interesting, all the years that I've been teaching yoga, that I notice that that bodies will, it's like the river working its way around all the rocks, you know, that people's bodies will just go, oh, that's tight there, I'll just lean, you know, and it's an unconscious thing, but we don't like moving into stretches, you know, we kind of think, oh, we just need to get away from that. Okay, so you can come back to the center now. We're going to do that little push through the foot. So as you breathe in, push that foot into the ground, and then breathe out and relax. We'll do that a few more times. So push the foot into the floor as you breathe in, and relax it as you breathe out. So again, you might feel that now in the left gluteals, left buttock muscles, maybe in the hip flexors, on the outer edge of the hip, and also maybe a little pelvic floor. And then one more time. And then undo the legs. And give them a little bit of a shake. And there we go. Okay, so we're going to come over onto our hands and our knees. I've got a nice stretchy little sequence. We'll do a few little warm-ups, and then I've got this long-winded sequence that I've put together. So grab a drink if you want one, and then when you're ready, come up onto your hands and onto your knees. So just going to start with one of our really simple bread and butter poses that I tend to do every week in the pregnancy classes because it's the best one for the lower back. So you're going to start on all fours. Hands are underneath your shoulders and your knees are underneath your hips, but you do want to make enough space between your knees for your baby to fit. The toes can stay together for stability, but the knees will want to be wide. So you will find out after the first round whether the knees are wide enough or not. We're going to use the Ujjayi breath again, the ocean breath. So as you breathe in, just lightly lengthen the spine. And then on your out breath, tuck your tailbone under. Let the spine push up towards the ceiling, but at the same time, slowly bring your hips all the way back towards your heels, so that at the end of your exhalation, your hips are back as far as they will go onto your heels. So again, now you've got the opportunity to take the knees where they need to be. So you might have to take the knees a little bit wider, so you've got room for your babies. And then on the inhalation, push your shins into the ground and notice how you effortlessly rise up by pushing the shins into the ground. You can also do a little bit of zipping up of the pelvic floor if you want to do more pelvic floor work. So we're doing that all with that constricted throat breathing of Ujjayi ocean breath. So as you breathe out, tuck the tailbone under, round the spine to the ceiling, and at the same time take the hips back onto the heels. So you're maintaining that length in the lower back. And then as you breathe in, push the shins into the ground. Maybe you zip up through the pelvic floor, and then rising all the way up, back onto all fours. So just do that a few more times, so you're getting a nice feel for this practice. So just feeling the length in the lower back, gradually increasing. So the lower back in pregnancy gets very compressed. There's a lot happening in the lower back, and this is one of the best positions I find for just lengthening the lower back out. Okay, so when you come up this time, you can bring the knees back into a more neutral position. You're going to stretch the calf out. So you're going to stretch the right leg away and just push the toes into the ground and then push the heel away. So this is just the right leg. Try and keep the hips level so you don't want to drop the hips, and just hold that stretch for a short while. So this is your anti-cramp stretch. If you're getting cramp at night, you do this before you get into bed. So just hold it for one more breath. And then you're going to plant the sole of the foot onto the floor. And then you're going to float the right arm all the way up. So now we're coming into a bit of a side stretch. Now you can stay there, or if you want more of a side stretch, gently lengthen the right arm over your head into the middle of the room, so that you're stretching through the whole of the right side of your body. Take a breath. And then slowly circle that arm back down onto the ground, rotate onto the ball of your right foot, and then bring the knee down to the floor. And then take the left leg back, so push the toes into the floor, push the heel away. And then again, we'll just hold this for a few breaths. So this is a foolproof cramp stretch. Well, I must mention calf cramp stretch. Nothing seems to help with instep cramp. But this is very good if you have calf cramp in the middle of the night. It seems to be 3 o'clock in the morning. It's like universal cramp time. So just one more breath, really stretching out the calf muscle. And then just lower the sole of the foot to the floor. Push into the right hand and just float the left arm all the way up to the ceiling. And if you want a little bit more of a stretch, then you reach the left arm over the head into the centre of the room. And just feel that stretch in the side of your body. Take a breath. And then slowly lower the left hand down to the floor, swivel back onto the ball of your foot. Bring the knee back down. Now make a space between your knees for your baby again, and we're going to come back onto our heels, rolling the spine to the ceiling, and then gently drawing the hips all the way back onto the heels. And then pushing into the shins and rising all the way back up. And then bringing the knees back into a comfortable neutral position. So we've got a little bit of pelvic strengthening here, but again, if you've got any niggles with your symphysis pubis, then I can give you something else to do instead. So give me a little wave if you want to have an alternative. So what we're going to do, we're going to inhale first of all and just take the right leg back behind us and push the heel away. So we only want it parallel to the floor, we don't really need to lift it too high up. And then on the out breath, we bring the knee back down to the floor. And then on the second inhalation, we do this little move which I call dog up the lamppost, and you'll see why. We're going to do that. And then we're going to lower the knee down. And it's a really good one for the gluteals. Yep, you found your glutes. So, you know, particularly if these glutes are weak, it's really important to strengthen these while you're pregnant. Okay, is that all okay for everybody? Does anybody want an alternative?
What's the alternative?
Well, I think if the symphysis pubis is a little bit uncomfortable, is it that one?
It's probably going to be
that one. Okay, so you can do that one, yeah. And then instead of coming out to the side, cross it behind, roll and tuck, and then come back, and then we'll swap. We're going to swap sides. We're going to do this one on one side and then on the other side. So that's your alternative. Okay. So we're going to start. You can use your Ujjayi breath again. Inhaling, right leg extends all the way back. Push the heel away. And then on the out breath, the knee comes back down onto the floor. On the in breath, the knee comes out to the side, dog at the lamppost, or you take it behind you and sit back and exhale. And then bring it down. So then we do the same on the left. So inhale, left leg extends back. Exhaling, the knee comes back down onto the floor. Inhaling, dog at the lamppost, the knee comes out to the side. And exhaling, the knee comes all the way back down. All okay? Right, let's crack on. Inhale, right leg comes all the way back. Exhale, the knee comes down to the floor. Inhale, right knee out to the side, dog at the lamppost. Inhale, knee comes back down. And sorry, but those are the breaths wrong around. So inhale, left leg comes back. Exhale, knee to the floor. Inhale, left knee, dog at the lamppost. And exhale, knee to the floor. Just one more round on each side, so just follow your own breath. So Bryony, what I would say there is you're coming up quite a lot, which is probably why it's getting into your hip. Keep the hips level and just keep the leg, yeah, that's it, parallel to the floor. Yeah, that's better. That's better. Okay, and then just to stretch that out, we'll come into downward dog. Unless you've got any carpal tunnel or the wrist, you might want to sit back for a bit and just ease the wrists out. So again, carpal tunnel is something that is quite endemic in pregnancy. You might not have it now, but if your wrists start to get uncomfortable, quite often you don't know you've got it until you wake up in the morning with claw fingers. And then when you come to class, you can't put your weight on your hands because this is very common. It's carpal tunnel, and it's just a compression of the nerves in the shoulder joint. So that just means things like downward dog, and even the cat poses are not comfortable. But then you bring your ball in and you do all of those over the ball, so we find ways to get around it. Okay, but if your wrists are all right for today and you're comfortable doing a downward dog, spread the fingers wide, push the heels of your hands into the floor, tuck your toes under, and then push into your hands so that your bottom starts to go backwards, and then lift your knees off the floor. Don't think about getting the legs straight. Instead, think about sending your sitting bones up to the ceiling so you get a nice stretch through the back of the body. Now squeeze the left heel towards the floor as you bend the right knee, and then swap over. Squeeze the right heel to the floor as you bend the left knee. So you're just stretching one hamstring at a time. You might not get it down to the floor. It's okay. It took me 20 years to get my heels on the floor. And down facing dog. And then you bring the knees all the way back down, and then come and sit. So if you've got low blood pressure in pregnancy, which a lot of people do have at the very beginning, things like downward facing dog are really good because it just can bring extra blood into your head, and it can stop you having those dizzy spells and almost, those fainting spells that you can often have at the beginning. And then when you get towards the end of your pregnancy, the blood pressure tends to rise. Then you might find that you have to back off a little bit and do less of the downward facing dogs because your blood pressure is naturally getting higher and higher. So just be mindful of how everything feels. At the end of the day, it all comes down to how's that feel. If you do something you think, oh, that doesn't feel good, then you come out. It doesn't matter what anyone tells you. If it doesn't feel good, you come out. Yeah. Okay. So we've got this little sequence now. So we're going to start towards the end of your mat, and you're going to sit back onto heels. So as we breathe in, we're going to rise up from the ground and take the arms over the head. And we're going to do that by pushing the shins into the ground and also zipping up through the pelvic floor. So as you breathe in, push the shins into the ground, zip up through the pelvic floor, take the arms over the head. And then on the out breath, you're going to come and sit back on legs. Do that 2 more times. So push the shins into the ground, pull up through the pelvic floor, and then breathing out slowly, lowering back down. 1 more time. So that's quite good for the glutes, good for the quads. Okay, an instep cramp now. We've been talking about this. Sorry. Isn't it funny what you put your attention to? It kind of finds its own way, doesn't it? And then from here we kind of come onto all fours. We've done this one already. Wide space for your baby, but this time we're going to use the B breath. So this is another of the birthing breaths. We're going to use it a little bit throughout this practice. So all you're going to do is hum as you go back. It's a very calming, very soothing breath for both you and for your baby. So breathe in first of all. And as you breathe in, push into the shins, rise all the way up, do the same thing again. Up, and you're going to do it 1 more time. And then come all the way up. So now we're going to come into a kneeling bit of the sequence. So again, if it's not comfortable in the pelvis, I'll give you an alternative. If it's going to be okay, then you're going to stretch the right leg behind you, and you're going to circle it all the way around until it's outside the hand. If that's not going to be okay, then you can actually do this next bit just in this position. So we're going to just do some arm movements. So you can do them from here rather than the lunging position. So that's your alternative. So from the lunging position, just press into the right thigh and rise up. Now you get this stretch in the left quad here. So let the pelvis come into a neutral position. You don't want it to over tilt too much because it compresses the lower back. And you make sure your shin is vertical. You're going to interlace your fingers and then just release the index fingers. And then as you breathe in, you're just going to reach the hands forwards and up. And as you breathe out, you're just going to bring your hands back down into the heart space and down to your baby. And then you're going to do the same thing again. So you're breathing in, you circle all the way up. And as you breathe out, you draw the hands slowly down in front of your heart and in front of your baby. And just do that 2 more times. Keep the right foot working really hard. So just as we pressed it down into the ground earlier, you're going to keep that action going because it works your glutes and it works your pelvic floor. So rather than just hanging off the position. And then we bring the hands back down to the ground inside the leg. And then we tuck the toes under on the left foot. We lift the left knee off the floor. And then you're going to walk your hands around towards the left until you're in the middle of your feet. You might need to just shift your feet around a little bit now. I'm going to turn around because obviously I've got my bum to the camera. And then what you're going to do here is just shift your weight into the right leg. So bend the right knee and shift your weight towards the right. And then bend the left knee and shift the weight towards the left. So you're stretching the insides of the thigh. So bend one knee, shift the weight to the other side. And then bend the other knee and shift the weight over to that side. So this is one of those stretches that when you first do it, it just feels really, really tight. But after doing it a few times, you find a bit of space. And the hamstrings start to give up their resistance. The inner thighs start to give up their resistance. Now come into the center and just turn your heels in towards each other so the legs are slightly rotated out, and then bend the knees. Now bring your hands onto your thighs and you're going to come up into a comfortable yogic squat. So if you need to bring the feet a little bit closer together, that's fine. Also you want to make sure your knees and your feet are facing the same way. So don't have your feet turning one way and the knees turning in a slightly different way. And then you're going to rise up and you're going to straighten the legs. So we're going to come over into some side bends here. So as we breathe in, you're just going to take the arms out at shoulder height. And as you breathe out, you're going to bend the knees, drop the right hand onto the right hip, and reach the left arm over the head. So bending both knees, so you're coming into a squat rather than a warrior position. And then inhale, rise back up, straighten both legs, the hands come out at shoulder height. Then we exhale, bend both knees back into the squat. Bring the left hand onto the left hip. Reach the right arm over the head. So Brian, you keep both knees bent, so you're kind of in the middle, yeah, lovely. And then inhale, push the feet into the ground and rise up. Do that again. So it's a little bit awkward. So we are dropping into a squat and then we're coming into a sort of side bend squat. So if we're used to doing warrior poses, the brain is going to go, no, we need to straighten the leg. We've got to do a warrior pose here now. Okay, rising up, and then the same thing again, bending both knees and then coming over into the side bend. And then inhaling, push the feet into the ground. Just that one more time on each side, and this time squeeze and lift your pelvic floor muscles as well. You can work with that slow Ujjayi breath, or maybe the more externally vocalized Ha breath. out this time. You can relax the hands. Now, you're going to rotate back towards the front of your mat. So swivel everything around towards. Now, would it be right for you? Because I've turned around. So to get to the front of your mat, are you turning towards your right?
Towards the side?
Yeah.
The right.
Right, so I'll do the same thing as well. But that wasn't where I started because I had my back to you. So once you're in this position, you want to get your hips level. So you might have to step the left foot or the right foot slightly out of each other's way. So you want to have your pelvis neutral here. So just make sure that your pelvis is flat and you haven't got your left hip moving too far back. So got a couple of options for the arms depending on what you're like in your shoulders. So first option is just to bring the hands into prayer position. Second option, bring the arms back behind you and hold your elbows. Third option, for those of you that have probably or possibly done this in yoga classes before, is to come into reverse prayer position. This gives you a really strong opening across the front of your chest. So some of you will have done this before and others of you will probably think, do you know what, I'm just going to hold my elbows today.
I didn't bend that much.
Okay, so we are going to use straw breath now. And this is another of our birthing breaths. And all we're going to do is blow the breath out through the lips as if we are breathing out through a straw. It's another birthing breath. So it's a very, very soft, gentle breath. So we can also do it on the inhalation as well. So we can use this straw sensation to breathe in as if we're sucking in through the straw and blowing out through the straw. It's like a silent whistle. Okay, so we breathe in, and then as we breathe out, we just push the hips backwards. So we're not kind of bending the spine forwards, we're just pushing the hips backwards. And at some point, the hamstrings are going to go, oh dear. And at that point, you can either stay where you are, or you can bend the right knee a little bit, and that will give you a slight bit more of a stretch. And then as you breathe in, bend the right knee, push into the foot, and rise all the way up. So now we're in a warrior pose. So now we've got the front knee bent to a right angle. You're going to push down into your feet, and as you breathe in, raise your arms all the way up over the head. And as you breathe out, bring the hands together and straighten the front leg. So we're just going to run through that a couple of times. So you're going to take the arms back behind you. And again, whichever of those positions felt comfortable for you. Take a breath in. Breathing out, straw breath. Draw the hips backwards as you fold forwards. Bend the front knee as you breathe in. As you breathe out, push into the front foot and rise up. Breathe in, sweep the arms up as you push into the floor. And breathe out. Cramp.
No, just really flexibilize. Like that.
And then one more time. So take the arms all the way back behind you. Breathe in. And as you breathe out, draw the hips backwards. Gently fold forward. Bend the front knee as you breathe in. And as you breathe out, push into the foot and rise up. Breathe in, push into the feet. Bring the hands all the way up over the head. And then breathe out, straighten the front leg and bring the hands back into the heart space. And then relax. I'll turn the feet wide again and just bring the heels and the toes in. So we're going to bring the hands onto the hips, and we're going to do a little bit of a birth work here. So we're going to do a figure of 8 move with the hips, and we're going to use the straw breath. So you can bend the knees as much as you like, and you're just going to circle the right hip around to the right, and then the left hip around to the left. I'm going to come up this end so you can see me. Whenever I do these things where you kind of move into different directions, you know, it's half of you end up facing the wrong way. So this is a birth move. So we do a lot of these like hip movements for labour. So we use these during the contraction phase. Well, say contraction phase, they're all contraction phases. The first stage where you're dilating your cervix. So when we move the hips during a contraction in the first stage of labour, it does a myriad of wonderful things, and it just eases the labour. So we do a lot of these hip circles, we do figure of 8s and circles. So this is one of the things that we're doing now. So just getting a nice figure of 8 move, working with your hips, and you can try that straw breath again. So I find that to really get into this, you have to bend the knees quite a lot. It doesn't really work if you keep the legs straight, because you can't really get into the hips so much. Kind of goes more into your back. So if you want it to get into your hips, yeah, that's better. So I always think of it as like hula hoop. Yeah, if you were doing slow motion hula hoop, you'd have to really move the hips around. Now, can you go the other way? Now the brain has got this movement, can you move the hips in the opposite direction? Will they do a figure of 8 the other way around? Okay, a couple more. So outside of labour, this is quite nice for the hips as well. Just gives a bit of space. It frees up a bit of space for you and your baby as well. Okay, and then coming into stillness. So now we're going to do that little sequence with the prayer, but we're going to do it the other way around. So now you're going to turn towards your left foot. You may need to have the right foot slightly away, so you need to get yourself sort of up on a tram line. Both legs are straight, and then again bringing the hands into whichever of those positions worked for you. We're going to go back to our straw breath, press both feet down into the ground, breathe in, and as you breathe out, just draw the hips backwards and lengthen the front of the body. And again, when the hamstrings kick in, you can either stay and hold the stretch, or you can soften the front knee and just go a little bit deeper. Now as you breathe in, bend the left knee until the shin is vertical. Keep pushing into the right heel. As you breathe out, push into the left foot and rise all the way back up. As you breathe in, sweep the arms out to the sides and up over the head, but keep pushing the feet into the ground. And as you breathe out, bring the hands into the heart and straighten the front leg. Now breathe in, bring the hands behind you, find your comfortable position. And as you breathe out, draw the hips backwards and fold forwards. Keep pushing the hips away, folding forwards. As you breathe in, bend the front knee, but keep pushing into the right heel. And as you breathe out, push the left foot into the floor. Slowly rise up. As you breathe in, sweep the arms up over the head, but push the feet into the ground. And on the exhale, straighten the front leg and bring the hands down into the heart space. We're going to just do that one more time. So breathing in, take the arms behind you into whatever position felt comfortable. And then breathe